This is the question of the day. Let me ask you, are you building a business and you're not thinking about an exit plan? You know, a lot of us when we're young, and I can remember being young, and my guest today and Cheryl, we can all remember being young. We're not young anymore. But again, a lot of people start building a business, and they say one of the best things that you do when you start a business is you always build a business to sell. It'll be the best business you can ever have. So, anyway, there's a lot of interest today in people selling businesses. A lot of people are reaching retirement age, they're ready to go to something else. So, an old friend of mine, we got in contact with him. It was really interesting. His name's Bob Hart. He actually was in the chimney sweep business at one time coming out of Houston, Texas. He was president of the National Chimney Sweep Guild and the Chimney Safety Institute of America. And he was actually an officer on the board when I was president. Traveled to Europe together. Former wife of his on the trip had to chase down Belgium lace, believe it or not. Right, Bob?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, we travel together, know each other very well. We don't see each other much anymore. It's been a couple of years since I've seen him. One time I can remember I was traveling through New Mexico, coming close to Albuquerque, and I posted some picture. And Bob said, "Hey, stop in to see me." And I said, "Bob, I ain't got time to get off this trip." And he kept on me and on me. I said, "Okay, where are you at?" And he told me he was in a place called Pagosa Springs, Colorado. And he told me to meet him at a pizza place there. Didn't know it at the time, but he actually owned the pizza place. And that was that. And it was a tap room. So, Bob, appreciate you being with us tonight. I'm glad you got some time to do this. So, I hope you're looking forward to this, brother.
I am looking forward to it, Jerry. And yeah, anything you want me to start with, or just jump
Well,
in?
we're just going to fire a couple of questions at you, and you rock and roll any way you want to go. But anyway, this was the amazing thing that I found out from Bob is that in Bob's career of businesses, he has actually started, believe it or not, 24 businesses that he has started as an entrepreneur. And I had no idea. I knew he had done a lot of different things in time, but 24 different businesses. So, Bob, the first thing is, how come you started so many different businesses?
That's a good question, Jerry. And, you know, my mind is just always kind of thinking about things, things that would be a good idea, what would be fun to do. And I guess I enjoy the challenge of seeing an opportunity and bringing it to life and making something of it. I've just always enjoyed that. And then, life goes on and things change. And, we moved a couple of times from Texas to Colorado and then Colorado back to Texas. And so when I moved, I'd sell businesses and start new businesses. And I don't know, I just found it really interesting and enjoy doing it. So.
Yeah. And, when he sent me this list of businesses, and I sent to Cheryl that day, this man has had a business doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, he's on car washes. He had a sanitation business. I guess that's a garbage disposal, trash disposal, landscaping, snow removal, farms, stables. He had 2 different chimney sweep businesses. That was an interesting one. I didn't know about that. It was amazing when he said he had 2, lost one in a divorce in 1986, but he was a contractor. But it seems like your biggest interest he's had here is the restaurant business. But I asked him a question the other day, and I'm going to ask you, Bob, of all the businesses that you ever started, what was your favorite?
Jerry, I think my favorite was it was called Hart's Rocky Mountain Retreat. And when I moved from Houston in, when was that? 1999, I had an idea to start a business up there that was short-term rental homes. This was before VRBO and what do you call it? The bed and breakfast rentals and all that kind of stuff. So I bought 40 acres and I built 5 real log homes on the 40 some acres and rented them out for vacation rentals for people wanting to come to Colorado and spend a few days or a week enjoying Colorado. And that was probably my favorite business. I got to build all the homes. Um, we had a lot of, really worked out great. It was a very successful business. Got to meet a lot of people, and it gave me a chance because the next year I got kind of bored. I started a construction company, so it gave me a chance to have people come stay at our log homes there, and some would actually decide they want to move to Colorado, and I end up building a house for them. And so it was just kind of a fun, easy business. I had that business for 9 years. Went through divorce number 2, and that business went to my ex-wife. So divorces are not good when you're in business. They're not good anyways, but when you're in business, they're not good. Okay. So both times it cost me quite a bit, but that was probably my really favorite business.
So you understand the term of community property pretty well, it sounds like.
I know it very well, Jerry.
So you're an expert in community property. Well, Cheryl, you sitting there kind of quiet. What would you ask Bob about buying, starting businesses, selling business? What would be on the top of your hit parade on this?
Did you do this at 3 o'clock in the morning, set up, and it's like, this is what I'm going to do today? Were you one of those people?
Yes. I would actually quite often have a dream, wake up and tell my wife about it, and she'd go, "Oh boy, now here goes another business." They would come to me lots of times during the night when I'm sleeping, and yeah, interesting how that happens. Just kind of the way my mind works, I guess.
Yeah. So Bob,
I thought I was the only one that did 3 hour thoughts before business.
Do you solve problems while you're sleeping, Cheryl?
I do. I really did. I used to have a problem hanging wallpaper. One day something wouldn't work. Go to sleep that night, wake up the next morning. It went up fine.
Yep.
So Bob, let me ask you this. You're in a business. Is this something that you decided, the ones that you didn't lose in divorces, okay, the ones you sold, did you wake up one day and say, I want out of this? Or did somebody say, hey, Mr. Hart, I'd like to buy your business? How did the business sale transpire?
So both, Jerry. Some businesses I sold because we were moving. We were moving from Houston to Pagosa Springs, Colorado, or back here to Texas. So in those cases, obviously, I had to sell the businesses. Some I've had employees say, "Hey, I'd like to buy this business. Would you sell it to me?" So now, most recently, this last year, I sold, I don't know, 4 or 5 businesses, maybe more, because I'm retiring. I still have one restaurant left. I want to keep that for something to do. I go there about once a week and meet with my employees, and it gives me some write-offs, when I fly back and forth. So it gives me some write-offs for business write-offs, so I can do some fun things I like to do. But yeah, I'm down to one business. So they've sold either for retirement, or someone offered, or I was moving.
Okay. So I got one more question. I'm going to turn it back to Cheryl. How did you determine what the business was worth when you decided to sell?
So it depends on, some, when I left Houston, for example, I sold most of those business. I sold one business to my brother. I sold another one to some people that were in similar business as myself, some competitors. Let's see. And I think one we used a realtor on, but in the case where it was people that I knew, they kind of knew about the business. Certainly my brother, he actually worked for me for several years in the chimney business. And so when I told him I was moving, he obviously wanted to see about buying it. And And then my competitors, they were in the same business, and they thought, hey, they could buy this business and make theirs bigger. And so that worked pretty well. Now, most recently, the ones I sold this year, I used a realtor, and he's a realtor that I've bought and sold a lot of properties and houses with. And when it came by time to sell my businesses, and some of them included property, I went to him and explained I wanted to sell them, and he learned all about them and listed them and did the whole transaction.
Gotcha. So I understand, but how did you derive what the value was, Bob? How did you come up with the business is worth X number of dollars? How did you do that?
Okay, so every business is a little bit different, but the business where I actually own property, and that's one thing I always recommend if when they're starting a business, you want to think about that day one that you open your business. You want to come up with a plan so that everything you do is one day going to pay you back when you sell this business. So when I would buy property, for instance, instead of renting, like for restaurants, I always bought the property instead of renting space. So while I was actually using the property for the restaurant, it was also increasing in value by just being property. So the ones that had property with them, the realtor had a lot of input on what that property was now worth several years later after I bought it. And then the business, we would look at the P&Ls and, basically, as long as your business is profitable, you can take the multiplier of that, say for whatever the profit is, and multiply it by 5 or 6 years and come up with a price that you could sell the business for. Now the property is going to be additional because that's not directly related to, for instance, a restaurant. But everything from day one to me was always focused on an exit plan.
That's what I mean. When you started the business, you were building this business to sell it. Would that be a pretty good assumption on my part?
Well, to sell it in the long run, not quickly, but I knew one day, even if it ended up being retirement, I was going to sell the business. So I wanted it to be worth something. You're working every day. You're bringing, you're making a salary. You're paying all the bills. You're doing all that through the business, but by doing that, by making payments on the property, by buying and accumulating equipment and other things, that's all building value. That if you don't ever sell it, if you just close the business down, you're going to lose all that value. So I've always looked at it that one day, everything I buy, whether it's equipment, property, any improvements I do, I'm always thinking about resale, what it's going to be worth to someone else.
Gotcha. Well, Cheryl, I got some more questions, but I don't want to cut you out. Same thing you would ask Bob at this point.
Bob, we're talking about a man that has owned and gotten rid of 23 businesses with one still available. So how many of those did you go into all of them? I know you went into it to make money, but did any of them what pulled it out of the blue? Did you see somebody? Did you see a need? Did you see an area that not particularly needed it, but that could grow from what you were building? How did you spot that business?
Well, if I go way back to when I first moved to Houston in 1977, I started a chimney sweep business, and I just moved there and walked into this bank that I didn't know, and it was a lady banker, and I sat down and said, I'd like to get a loan for $3,000. I'm going to buy this chimney equipment and start a chimney sweep business. And she just looked at me and said, "Do you realize we're in Houston, Texas?" And I said, "Yeah." And I also know that every house in Houston, Texas has a chimney. And they don't. Some need to be cleaned, some need to be inspected, but they have chimneys, so they need work. And she gave me the loan. She was a little bit worried about it, I think, but she gave me the loan. But I saw there was a need because there weren't any other chimney sweeps in Houston at that time. So yeah, so in that case, I saw the need and started that. And then Houston, in Houston, back in the late 70s, early 80s, chimney sweeping got pretty slow during the summertime because it got hot. People weren't using their fireplaces and they weren't thinking about their fireplaces. So I started a fence company just because, I needed additional income. We just bought a house. I watched them put the fence up in the backyard and think, man, there's a lot of fences, a lot of houses going here in Houston. I think we could use another fence company. So I started the fence business. That was out of need and it did really well. And then I expanded that one into Colleyville, Texas, which is north of Dallas. Then I moved to Colorado and I had to sell all that, and then I opened the businesses in Colorado. The rental homes. I found a need for that because, I was looking at going to Colorado and where am I going to stay and hotels, and I saw a few people would have some cabins for rent and stuff. So I said, well, why don't I just build 5 on there and make a place where people come experience Colorado for a week, and that worked really good, and then. So I was kind of semi-retired with that, and I got bored. I said, well, I'm going to start building homes again like I did in Houston, and so that took off, and that grew really, really fast. That was probably my most profitable sale of a business. Of course, I had it for 23 years. But anyway, all these businesses, there was definitely a need for the business. I can look at the list; they all kind of had a need, So, I was just taking the opportunity, seeing the opportunity, and taking advantage of it.
Well, but as I look down the list, Bob, there were some that really didn't fly for you. It's like when you started your Rumford Fireplace Company up in Colorado, and when you put down the paper, you said you started, there just wasn't a demand there. So, that's the whole thing. You're not going to win at everything, but that didn't knock you down. You just kept going with different stuff, right?
Yeah. So that business, we actually built a form for building Rumford fireplaces that could be used all over the country. And we sold a lot of them all over the country. But, masonry fireplaces have just kind of, there's not many being built anymore,
Right.
And even regular fireplaces in homes now, most of them come with gas fireplaces. You see occasional wood burning, but so that business, it was good for a little while, but that just kind of faded out. And I just closed it. Yeah, I did not sell that one.
Right. So let me throw some things at you, and you tell me if you agree with what I'm getting ready to say. Because if you're going to sell a business, you got to have a buyer. Would you agree with that, Bob? If you don't have a buyer, you really can't sell it. Would you agree?
Eventually you have to get a buyer. Yes.
You got to have a buyer. Yep. So let's talk for a minute about what buyers are looking for. And as I go through these, Bob, if any of these are wrong, let me know. But buyers don't buy guesses. They buy numbers.
Yep.
You need clean, accurate financials.
Yep.
You need profit and loss statements that actually make sense. You need a clear revenue stream. You need documented expenses. And if your books are messy, your valuation is going to drop. Buyers don't want risk. They want predictability. You build that predictability by having maintenance agreements, memberships, repeat customers, consistent lead flow. If you have one-time jobs, it's a lower value business. Recurring revenue, that's a higher business. If the business runs on you, if it depends on you, it's not a business, it's just a job. In fact, I'm going to quote John Meredith. The most valuable business is the one that don't need you. You got to have documented processes, standard operating procedures, repeatable workflows where a buyer can step in and run the machine. And you got to have a team. And this is where most owners fail. If you're the top sales guy, if you handle all the problems, if you're the decision maker on everything, then you are the business. And people don't want to buy you, they want to buy a business. So as I ran it off all those things, Bob, was there anything in there you would disagree with?
No. And I kind of made a list myself too, Jerry. And I can kind of go through these real quick. You've already mentioned some of them. But one is I say always start a business with a good business plan, and that will likely change with the reality of the business. But to have the plan to start with and go with the flow and make and adapt it is very important. Build a business that can run without you being there, and this takes time. But with proper training and doing it from day one, you can make that happen. Build a strong banking relationship. That's very important. You have to have credit available, whether you have you're buying a business or have a business and want to expand that business. It's very important to have that relationship so you can have the funds needed if an opportunity arises. Focus every day on building the business. That should be your main focus every day. Build the business. Have a never give up attitude. There's always a way to achieve your goal. Hire good employees, fire bad employees. You know this, one bad apple can spoil a whole bushel. So I'm very impatient. If I have a bad employee and the manager tells me I have a bad employee, we get rid of them right away. We don't have room for that. Be a trusted leader with your employees, provide guidance, but don't be overbearing on the employees and help them grow your business. Never, ever, for any reason, miss a payroll, no matter what you have to do. If you have to go mortgage your house or whatever you have to do not ever not pay an employee, because you will ruin your reputation and business reputation for life. Buy long-term assets, do not rent. So if you're going to buy a business and it comes with property, that's a really good thing. Or if you buy a business and it's whatever business it is, if you're a chimney sweep, you're renting an office, buy an office and expense off. You get to expense all that off. You get to depreciate it on your taxes, but you're building money with every year that goes by towards your retirement. And when buying property, think about, what's really important. Location. When you buy equipment, buy the absolute best equipment you can buy. Do not, just buy the best you can. When you go to sell that, if you got cheap equipment in there, it's going to make your whole business look cheap. You want really good equipment, the best out there, you're going to get it back when you sell your business. Know your P&L. You were mentioning that, Jerry, your P&L. I say know your P&L daily. Look at it monthly, but know it daily. Set up spreadsheets where you can see daily on every business where you are on a daily basis. That will help when you go to sell a business. You can show them those reports, and not just what the accountant produced, but your actual daily numbers. Competition. Your competition out there, that's a good thing. Competition is good for business. Competition, helps everyone do better. Know your competition. You never know. Your competition may come one day and say, "Hey, I'd like to buy your business from you. Will you sell it to me? Because you're doing such a good job operating it." And that has happened to me. Probably number one, customer service. It's the absolute most important thing you can do for your business. If someone's looking to buy your business, all they have to do is look at your Google reviews. If you look up my Google reviews for my Brick House restaurant in Graham, Texas, we've been open there 2.5 years. We have over 1,400 reviews, and our review number is 4.8, which is really high in the restaurant business. But we treat our customers when they come in, and I applied this to all my businesses in the past. But when they come in and they're not 100% happy with their experience, their meal is free. Absolutely free. We didn't tell you, your meal tonight is free, and we give them a gift card to come back the next time so we can make them happy. I don't care what you got to do. You do not want a customer leaving your business unhappy, whatever it takes. And when someone's buying your business, they'll look at those reviews. If you got a fantastic reputation, that makes your business worth more. And probably the last thing, well, one of the last things, always run the cash through your business. I know some people out there go, hey, you give me cash, I'll knock, you don't have to pay sales tax, or I'll knock this or knock it off 10%, whatever. Put your cash through the business, because every penny counts. The cash that you don't put you through your business is going to show up as profits you did not make. And when you sell that business, it's all about that profit number that you're making, what's on your books. Run the cash through. You get to write off in other ways anyways, but run the cash through your business. And price your services so that you're making 15 to 20% clear profit, not including your salary. So from day one, price your business, know your numbers, know that you are making 15 to 20% profit.
And Bob, let's add in, profit is not your salary.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's above your salary. That's above your salary. So if you're making 100,000 in your year on your business as a year, that's 100,000, but that's part of your expense. That's not profit. So 15, 20% profit above your salary. Then when it's time to sell, P&Ls with a 15% or higher profit, good quality tools, equipment, property in good location, a high Google rating, happy employees that can run the business without you, and a great reputation and customer list, guarantee you a home run on your sale when it's time to retire or move on.
Got you, brother. Cheryl, anything you want to add in or ask there? Because I've got some more stuff I want to get into, but if you got something, speak up.
I've just got one more, and it's a personal one. Bob, you said you were going to sell and retire. How long before or after that day happens before you get bored again?
Well, that's one of the reasons I kept my one business, because I would get bored, and I still wake up in the middle of the night thinking of ideas, and I find reasons to not do them. So, but yeah, you raise a good point, Cheryl, and it's just, I don't know, it's just one of those things I have to deal with. But I'm 70 years old now. I'm ready to really slow down.
Well, Bob, you might be, but Cheryl and I, we're still going, and we're older than you are. Okay, buddy? So I'm going to roll off some no things that you don't want whenever you put this business up for sale. And as we go through this, keep in mind, our audience is basically home services, chimney sweeping, HVAC, plumbers, electrical. That's who we do with here. So when you see this, we're talking about home service businesses. Number one, a company with no follow-up system, that's not going to be good. If you're not following up on estimates, you don't track your conversions, buyers look at this and see you're losing revenue. Owner dependency. If that business stops when you stop, it's not sellable. That's the biggest red flag there is.
Yep.
Inconsistent revenue. seasonal spikes, no pipeline visibility. This makes buyers sense uncertainty. No or poor systems, no CRM, customer relation management system, no processes, chaos. I hate the word chaos. I hate to see it happen. Limited services, because what that means, you do one thing, you're fragile. More services, more revenue stream, more value. So, Bob, would you agree with what I just said? Is those are all no's for selling the
Ab-
business?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Cheryl, I've got another one, but I don't want to cut you out. So, if you got anything you'd like to say or ask here before I go into my next one?
You go right along. I can empathize with this man.
Okay. So, Bob, I'm going to take you up to the current world we live in, okay? Of buying and selling businesses. Because right now, we got people that are selling. The private equity is becoming really big in home services. A lot of people are selling out the house. And so, what is private equity looking at? Bob said earlier, taking multiplications of net income. That was the old way that you look at it. Today, we have something called EBITDA. That is EBITDA. And what EBITDA does, this is where somebody is going to set the value of your business if they're buying it. What it does, it measures a company operating performance and profitability by focusing on core business results without the effects of financing, accounting, or tax decisions. Here is what EBITDA is. Net income. To net income, you add your interest income. You add your taxes. You add your depreciation, and you add your amortization. As an example, we'll say that you had a business that has a $250,000 net profit. That's pretty good. Now, we had interest expense of $40,000. Excuse me again. Taxes of $60,000, depreciation of $30,000, and then we have amortization of $20,000. That gives us an EBITDA of $400,000. Excuse me, $1,000. This is what today's buyers are going to be looking at and paying you multiples of what your EBITDA is. Bob, have you heard of EBITDA before?
I've heard of it, Jerry, and maybe because most of my sales have been in smaller towns.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure that applies as to like a bigger city where there's a lot of businesses there and so forth. But I've heard of it. And what I've really found in the smaller towns that I live in is, like you said earlier, you got to find a buyer or you're not going to sell the business. So, I mean, yes, looking at the profit and loss and using the multiplier I talked about is how my realtor came up with the initial pricing. But, you know, when it came right down to the people looking to buy them, you know, that kind of in a small town, that kind of goes out the window. It basically becomes, you know, what's it worth to them without looking at the number just that way. You know, if a big business, or say you have a dental practice or veterinarian practice or something like that, I can see where that would work a lot. That would work pretty well.
Well,
But
the
it's-
reason, yeah,
or a big air conditioning business or something, you know.
right. The reason I bring it in, Bob, is private equity is investing heavily in the home services. They are investing in the companies.
Yep.
And that's what private equity is going to be looking at. What is your EBITDA and what's your multipliers of EBITDA? And that's where the selling price comes from. And then, excuse me, there's also risk involved here because a lot of these are not going to give you cash at the closing. It's going to come over a period of time. Also depends if you're going to stay and run the business or you want to walk away from the business. There's a lot of things going on. So you got to remember that. But
Yeah.
here's what you don't want. And I've seen this happen so often, Bob. Somebody runs a business for years and they're thinking, okay, this is my retirement. But the problem is when they get there, you said the key thing. They've been pocketing cash for years, which shows a low net profit. You cannot justify cash on your profit statement. It doesn't happen.
Yep, that's right.
Okay? So, Bob, what else would you add to this discussion? I think it's been pretty good tonight. What do you think, Cheryl?
I think it's been really good.
Well,
Okay.
the one thing I'd like to add, you asked me, or you talked about a little bit, maybe an owner carry on financing, and I did that only on two of my businesses. One was actually the restaurant end of a restaurant property sale, and the other one was on a hotel that I owned, where the bank wouldn't finance the whole amount, so I carried a second. But I had attorneys write everything up so that if they don't pay me, and it's also being paid through a what do you call it, escrow company. So they take care of all. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to see anything. All I see is a check come into my account every month. But if they don't pay me, basically the business will come back to me. But it was such a small portion of the sales price, that's fine with me. I'll take the business back and
Right.
sell it again. But be careful. I would never, in most all the businesses I sold were cash, but I would only do a very small portion owner carry. I wouldn't do a whole business owner carry. That's pretty risky.
Yeah. And this is what, if you're going to do that, also, you need to check the net worth of that individual and see a financial statement. If that business fails, are they going to be able to pay the notes? Or are they not? Are they going to go away? And then you're just going to be involved in lawsuits and lawyers, and you may never see a dime. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. Use attorneys. I had a realtor do several of my businesses this year. So he had, they know how to handle everything 100% right. When we did the owner finance, both cases, I had an attorney put it all together. Don't try to do it yourself. Don't write some agreement that you both shake hands and sign. Don't do that. Make sure it's done properly through an escrow company, so that if they stop making payments, you can easily go to court and get it back, not be in a year-long fight to do it.
Okay. Well, Cheryl, you got any more questions before we end this episode tonight?
I really don't. I think it's been really good because I think there's more people than we can even fathom out there that are looking to sell businesses and retire, or just, it's time for it to go. And you don't think about a lot of things. And so I think that's where we need some planning. We need some experts out there to talk to them, that'll let them know how to do things. And Bob made a really good point. In the town that he was in, or the towns, excuse me, they were smaller businesses. And so they, a lot better ethics. I'm just going to use those words. The people that bought it had better ethics. You get into a larger town, it becomes all about the money.
Mhm.
And so I think it's your location, the timing of the sale, how much you want out and how much they want in is what makes the sale work.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Bob, I appreciate your time tonight, man. It was good to spend some time. We had a good conversation a lot of years, and this was really interesting.
Yep.
So I hope that you're really happy out there. You're back in Texas again, which I don't understand. I'd rather be living in Colorado than I would in Fort Worth, Texas myself. I don't know how you let.
We're loving it down here, Jerry. In 23 years in Colorado, I love Colorado. We still go up and ski, but that's about, I used to love plowing snow. I had a snow plowing business, one of my first businesses. And in Colorado, we did the airport, we did Walmart, we did all these big contracts, snow removal. And so when it was snowing, it looked green to me. But so we just did really good on the snow removal business, but now I don't even want to look at snow. Maybe a week of skiing, that's it. So
Yeah.
glad to be back in Texas.
I hear you, buddy. Well, listen, again, I appreciate you coming in. I hope this has been valuable. If you're listening in, if you think this is of value to somebody else, hey, share it out to them. Tell them, listen in, share this episode, because there's a lot of people out there right now that are going through this. I know that private equity is hitting people right and left. They're getting emails, they're getting letters. The private equity wants to buy your business, and they're out there. But let me tell you something. You have to investigate this deeply. There's a lot of risk in selling a business. Listen to what Bob said. You got to have legal advice. You got to have experts working with you to make sure you come out smelling good on the other end, where you're not regretting your decision later. And that's what happens a lot of times. I can tell you, people, I know from personal experience, that are really hurting from a bad decision of what they did with the business. Okay. So anyway, this is Jerry Eisenhower, our guest Bob Hart tonight, Cheryl Eisenhower, and we appreciate you tuning in. We hope this has been a time of value. It's truly an honor, and it's a privilege, and it's a pleasure to be able to speak to you every week in our broadcast. See you next week on the next episode of the CVC Home Service Success Network. And thank you once again for being here. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you.